Aronson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Present.
Councilmember Moorhead.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. Could you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is presentations and awards, and we have none tonight, so we'll move on to personal appearances. And with us tonight is Renee Kirchhoff to talk to us tonight about the Raymore Historical Society's promotional campaign. Renee?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Renee Kirchhoff. I'm the president of the Raymore Historical Society. First of all, I want to thank the city for choosing some of the historical names in use of our recent additions to the city, specifically, T.B. Hanna Station Park and recently Centerview. Centerview has Harrelson Hall and Gilmore Room, but do any of you know where those names come from? They are historical. The Raymore Historical Society started in 1994 with the purpose to preserve and protect the history of Raymore. We're proud to announce that we have over 30,000 artifacts in our museum to help with the goal, and we also have the mail buggy at the Community Bank of Raymore. Did you all know there's a museum? Have you been to the museum recently? If you haven't, you should come. It's pretty impressive. You're welcome to join us anytime we have our meeting, which is the second Tuesday of every month, or if you give us a call, we'll arrange for a tour. We'd love to have all of you come as a tour, any city employees or anyone that's listening in the community. It's located in the lower level of the Cullen Funeral Home. The Cullen family's been very generous allowing us to be there. But with all not-for-profits, we realize that it's not going to be a permanent location. So we have to raise money, just like every other not-for-profit. So we're raising money to find a location. We have a building that we rent out, but it's not optimum for our location. So we're currently doing a fundraiser. We're doing the I Love Raymore buttons. We don't receive any city funds or any government funds of any sort, so we're entirely funded by private donations. Tonight, I brought with us some I Love Raymore buttons. Each of you is going to get one as a gift from us. I challenge you to wear them anytime you're representing the city of Raymore, whether it's in the city or outside the city. And if anyone here would like any more of the buttons, we're selling them for $1 each. And with that, I just want to thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions?
And I'm sure you would accept more as a donation.
Absolutely. We are a not-for-profit 501c3, so if you want to leave us in your will or you want to make any donations, yes, we will gladly take anything.
Renee, do you have a goal that you're looking toward for your fundraising campaign?
Right now, we're looking for a place that we can make our permanent home.
Sure.
So until we have that location, we really don't. The sky's the limit. We'll take whatever you want to give us.
I know you guys are looking really hard, but have you got an idea of a range you're kind of looking at, or is it just something that
we have visited with some investment people, and we do have that other building, and that is a fundraiser for us. That brings us some income.
Okay.
In order to support a building of any sort, we'd need a minimum of $500,000 in trust somewhere so that it would throw off enough income to support what we might want to put a museum in.
Okay.
So $500,000, I guess, is the answer, or more.
Yes.
Yes, Kevin. I'm sorry, Councilman Kellogg.
No, I appreciate the first. Thank you so much, Renee, for being here and for the report. And thank you for the button.
You're welcome.
I saw those at the grand opening at Centerview. And I'm like, how do I get one of those? You know, I felt left out, but anyway, I'm so glad to get one. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you this. How can I get more? Because I can see these. I will wear mine proudly.
We would love for any businesses in the area that would like to have them. We would help, to sell them for us. We can't do farmers market because it's not grown in Raymore. So it's just word of mouth, getting it out there, catching us at events, that sort of thing. Most of our board members have them.
Okay. Thank you so much for being
here. Be
here.
more than happy to leave some at the city if the city would like to sell some.
Talk to me after the meeting. We might be able to work something out. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Anyone else? Mr. Barber.
Thank you. You might mention that some of us on the council are members
Yes,
of
you are.
the Historical Society and might challenge anybody who is not. You can get the information. In fact, it's probably right here.
It is. Life membership's only $150.
You had somebody on the council in the past that was quite a recruit. Yeah, she was. So I joined.
Yes, and your former mayor was a life member. And Mr. Turnbow, I believe you're a member, aren't you? Yes. See?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Renee. Next item on the agenda is staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Ms. Warner to make a report for the City Clerk's office.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Good evening, Mayor and Council. In accordance with the Missouri Record Retention Manual published by the Secretary of State's office, certain city records have met their retention period. Each year, the City Clerk's office conducts the annual record destruction by shredding. The exhibit included with the memo in your council packet is a specific list of those items that were destroyed. This year, there were 126 boxes totaling 3,083 pounds of records that were shredded, so a very, very house cleaning year. That concludes my staff report unless council would have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Warner. I would ask Mr. Krass to make a report for the Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to supplement my written report with a couple items. The Foxwood Tower was placed back into service last week, so that project is moving smoothly. The Gore Road water main improvements are complete. The meter vault has been set at the intersection of Gore and Kurzweil, and we anticipate that being placed into service in mid-July. So that completes my staff report. I'm available for any questions council may have.
Anyone? Okay, thank you, Mike. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Krass. I would ask Mr. Musteen to make a report for Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council. I've submitted a written report, but I want to highlight a couple things. We've had a very busy last couple weeks. As you know, we did a ribbon cutting for Centerview, and it has proven to be an extremely popular facility. We are giving anywhere from 3 to 6 tours a day right now. We've booked over 20 events within the next 12 months, so it's proven to be very valuable to the city. So first and foremost, thank you for that. We appreciate it very much. We had a lot of stuff going on, special events. We had the Sandlot showing at Memorial Park on Field 2. We estimate about 120 to 140 people participated with that on last Friday night. The Great American Campout was Saturday night. We had 20 teams from the men's senior softball circuit participate in a 3-day tournament. We had over 7 states represented all throughout all the Midwest, so that was a big weekend. And then we have another one coming up with our Spirit of America celebration on July 1st, this coming Saturday night. So if you don't mind, I'd like to give a couple of the specifics just to announce it as the dates changed, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. But it is this Saturday night. The car show and the food truck portion of the event will start around 4 o'clock. So people will be coming in anywhere between 3:30 and 4, getting ready for that event. Those events, the car show will go to 6 o'clock, and the food trucks we anticipate will just go until they're sold out, which we hope that happens. The Boomers, the band, which is classic rock, country, southern rock style music, begins at 7 o'clock, and they will play up until the announcement and the countdown of the fireworks display, which is also, will start around 9:30 dusk. It just really depends on how the sun sets and what's going on there. But one of the new things this year is the app, which is now available. You can go out to J&M Displays and download their app. We are listed in their events. You can click on that. It'll show a map of the park. And then as soon as the fireworks go, if the app is open on your smartphone or your tablet device, the music will automatically play. So whether you're at the park or at your home or within a 50-mile radius, you can participate and watch that show. So we're very excited, and we hope that everybody can come out this Saturday night. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. Just a comment, we were listed on Channel 9 tonight, the Spirit of America celebration. We were only one of, I believe, 4. They started off with Friday night fireworks with the Royals for this weekend, and then the Saturday, we were the only city display listed on there for Saturday. So got some pretty good press on the 6 o'clock news tonight.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Fearborn, anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Mustine. I would ask Mr. Hickey to make a communications report.
Thank you, sir. Since my last report, the Communications Department and the Arts Commission hosted the successful Summer Scene Arts and Music Festival on June 10th at TB Hanna Station. It's always hard with those kind of evening or those long festivals to kind of determine, how many people actually came through the park, as we had folks coming from all direction. But it was really a great metric, I thought, was with our pop-up art contest, Relax in Raymore. We had a little over 300 people participate and vote in that contest, which had a great turnout. We also had 2 different painting classes that we held that day. Both of them with about 30 people filled the capacity. And so I know the instructor of that class was thrilled to have that many people, and it was great to see everyone under the depot there painting and kind of participating in that event. But what I also thought was kind of telling was Shivers Ice House, who was providing the kind of the snow cone treat throughout the entire day. According to them, they went through about 12 gallons of just the pineapple flavoring. And so we know it was very popular, also a little hot that day. So very excited, and want to thank everyone who participated and came out that day. I thought it was a great event. Also great to see so many people who just brought out their lawn chairs and blankets and hung out well after the band's finished, and we even started cleaning up. So it was nice to see folks using that park as well. Also in the communications department, I know some of you have already met her, but want to do an official introduction to Melissa McGee, our brand new communications specialist. She's joining us after a career as a freelance photographer, videographer, and writer. Has already proven to be invaluable in the department. She's helped out immediately in her first week helping at Summer Scene, but has also already taken the enormous work that is our social media presence, social media accounts, and has done a fabulous job there as well, and is also helping with a lot of the writing and other events that we have coming up. So I want to welcome her and introduce her as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody have anything for Mike? Yeah, Sonia?
I'll just add that I spoke with her at the opening for Centerview, and the photographs that are in the front hallway in Centerview, or I don't know if they're still there, that were there that evening, are actually her photos.
Yes,
yeah.
She provided the photography, the artwork for that gallery right there in that main hallway. And so while we didn't, we wanted to have something there and to show what that space could be used for, and it was fantastic that she was able to step up and had some incredible photography herself that she was able to display.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey. Just for next week's schedule, as I always do, wanted to update the council. You will remember that you all very enthusiastically asked for a work session on July 3rd, next Monday night, and we thank you for that. Currently, 2 items are on the agenda. The Herald Estates folks have come back at council direction and asked the city council, they have a new request relative to their lift station. And then we anticipated a follow-up. The mayor and I have been talking the follow-up relative to the Charter Commission report, and a detailed discussion on that by the council. That will be the 2 items that are on the agenda for next Monday night. There is the potential for 2 other items to hit the agenda during the course of this week. Those got a little bit delayed. One of the things, because I told Mike he wasn't, Mr. Crass, that he was not supposed to be talking to the council about it, but council will remember that APWA is this week, our accreditation review, and so that has put several of the departments who are contributing to that particular review a little bit behind on their reports to me. Had it been last week, I would have been telling you that there were 4 and possibly 5 items on the agenda for next Monday night. As it is now, it will be those 2 items. So maybe we can keep it a little bit brief on the July 3rd before the July 4th holiday for you all. That concludes staff reports this evening, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Holman.
I have a question for Chief Zimmerman. Chief, I was reading through the police report blotter, and I know you're not on the schedule tonight for staff reports, but I noticed that there was a collision yesterday at 58 in Kentucky, and you know how much emphasis I have put on public safety at that location over the past number of years. I was curious, was that involving a vehicle that came out of the new development, or was that from the other cross streets?
I don't know, sir, but I can check. I'll check and let you know.
I'd like to find out. As you remember, I explicitly told the developers on the beginning of that project that I would be keeping a very watchful eye on that location for public safety. It's a difficult spot now. I know we'll be taking corrective action on that once we do the realignment of the road, but until then, I still will be watching that closely. So any information you could provide would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move on. Committee reports. I'll go ahead and ask Mr. Moorhead to give another report on the charter review.
Last Monday night, we presented our formal presentation to the City Council and had our first work session going over various aspects of both the discussion of what the charter review handled during its tenure to date, and then looked at some ballot language that, if approved by the council, could be presented to voters.
Thank you. And I think that's the only committee we have to report on tonight, so I'll move on to the consent agenda. There's one item on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to dispose of the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda to include item A, City Council minutes for June 12, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to excuse me. We'll move on to unfinished business now. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3253 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3253 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving an agreement with Cook, Flatt, and Strobel Engineers, PA for the Centerview Water Quality Improvement Design Project in the amount of $32,445,000 and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of Bill 3253?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3253 for an award of contract for the Centerview Water Quality Improvements and Design.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3253. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3270 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3270 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city manager to enter into an agreement with Vance Brothers, Inc. for the Municipal Circle Micro Surface Project, City Project number 17-268-201 in the amount of $36,555.10 and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 3270?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3270 for an award of contract for the Municipal Circle Microsurfacing.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3270. Any further discussion? Ms. Abdel, go ahead.
I just have a quick question just for my entertainment, kind of. I'm just curious, how many parking spots are on the circle now? What's the difference in the number of parking spots that we're going to have? I know that people are really concerned about parking at Centerview, and so just to kind of clarify how this is going to really make a difference.
Mr. Krass.
It'll approximately double the amount of stalls.
Anything else? Hearing nothing else, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Can I please have the second reading of Bill 3271 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3271 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri amending the fiscal year 2017 capital budget.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 3271?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3271 for a budget amendment for capital projects.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3271. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3274 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3274 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city manager to enter into an agreement with Westport Construction Company for the Raymore Activity Center project, City Project Number 17-229-201, in the amount of $2,807,130, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of Bill 3274?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3274 for an award of contract for the Raymore Activity Center.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3274. Any discussion? Ms. Abdel, go ahead.
I just have a question about something that came up this week, and I'm certain that staff has clarified this for us, but just to clarify for the public. In our packet, it says that this is being awarded to the lowest best bidder, but there clearly is a bid that was lower than the one we're awarding it to. So could you clarify why it looks like that's not true?
Absolutely. The low bidder withdrew their bid. They neglected to bid on site work utilities. And so literally as the bid was being opened, they were calling and asking that their bid be withdrawn.
Any further discussion? Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to note in the actual bid itself, and just a quick question, I saw they changed the timeline in here from 310 to 336 days. Any other bidders do that, and is that common practice with these?
Mr. Grass.
Yeah, that was negotiated with them, and it was also filled in, so yes, it's common practice.
It is common practice.
It's part of the
All
negotiation process.
Thank you.
And Mike, and that was actually part of the reasons for our value engineering, if you want to call it that, getting it within our budget amounts that we were looking toward as well.
That's correct.
It helped with that process, I know. Okay. Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll move on to new business. First item is liquor license application by Qdoba Restaurant Corporation, and that will require a public hearing. I'll open that public hearing at this time and ask for a staff report.
Thanks, sir. I'll call on Ms. Warner.
Thank you. Qdoba Restaurant Corporation, DBA Qdoba Mexican Eats Store, this one specifically, 1779, located at 1931 West Foxwood Drive, has filed an application for the 2017-2018 liquor license year. This public hearing was properly advertised in the Raymore Journal, and the applicant has submitted the necessary application and supporting documents as outlined by City Code. Approval of the city license is also contingent on approval from the State of Missouri Division of Alcohol and Tobacco Control. Representative Kurt Fuhrer is in attendance should council have any questions. And lastly, as outlined in City Code Section 600.090, witnesses testifying will be administered an oath of truth. Concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Before we move on, is there any questions of staff? Thank you. And since it's an open public hearing, I'll now open that up to the applicant, if he'd like to address the council, and then we'll move on to any other public comments that anyone would like to bring toward the council.
Good evening, everybody.
You have to be sworn in. Could you please state your name and address for the...
Kurt Fuhrer, my personal one?
Yes.
3107 South 7th Street, Kansas City.
Is your microphone on?
Sorry.
Okay.
Kurt Fuhrer, 3107 South 7th Street, Kansas City, Kansas, 66103.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Yep. And would you like to make a statement to the council at all?
We're excited to open the next chapter of Qdoba Mexican Eats here in Raymore. It's going to be the 8th of our Kansas City market here, and sometime in August, we'll begin taking care of guests. So
Well, I know I've had a lot of input from folks in the community who are excited for you to get your doors open, so
we'll make it happen as
that's awesome.
soon as we're ready to take care of guests.
All right,
So,
thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
I appreciate it. And is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment on this application at this time? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at this time, and I'll ask for a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the liquor license application for Qdoba Restaurant Corporation doing business as Qdoba Mexican Eats Store number 1779.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the liquor license application of Qdoba. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3275 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3275 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, vacating the Cunningham at Creekmore First Plat, a subdivision in the City of Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. This also requires a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at this time and ask for a staff report.
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Cataret to make this staff report.
Thank you, sir. The Cunningham phase of the Creekmore subdivision is located at the southwest corner of North Madison Street and 155th Street. This phase would be on the east side of Creekmore Lake. The first plat of the Cunningham subdivision was approved back in 2008. But there's been no public improvements, no road improvements have been made, no utilities installed, and no lots have been sold in this phase of the subdivision. In early 2017, the developer of Creekmore did approach city staff requesting to modify the street and lot layout of the Cunningham subdivision. Staff outlined two options for the developer to modify the street layout that had been approved. The first option was a replat, which is familiar to the council. There's been many replats of subdivision phases over the years. The second option was to actually vacate the plat, which would be a total elimination of the street layout and the lot layouts, et cetera. Plat vacation is similar to an easement vacation process that we go through. That was the option selected by the developer, thus the application before you this evening. Again, a plat vacation is similar to an easement vacation, so it does require a public hearing, was advertised for this evening, and as such, I need to enter into the record the notice of publication, the Unified Development Code, the application that was submitted, the growth management plan, and the staff report. In the staff report, staff has submitted proposed findings of fact for your consideration in this request this evening. Again, since no site work was ever commenced, no lots were sold, staff does recommend approval of this plat vacation request. I also want to indicate that all the land area that surrounds this plat is owned by Cooper Land Development. And if the plat is vacated, what it enables them to do is come in with a new plat for the area with a new street configuration and lot layout. Mr. Steve Warger, who is the project engineer for Creekmore, is here this evening if you have any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions of staff at this time? Mr. Kellogg.
I have a question for staff, and it doesn't pertain to this because there's nobody living around it. But in the instance or example that there was somebody within the boundaries of that would require a good neighbor meeting in the case of changes to a development, even though this is reversed, would those good neighbor meetings apply to this if there was somebody that was within the linear footage requirement?
If there was somebody within the standard perimeter of the property where we notify property owners, then yes, we would have that meeting beforehand. In this instance, as I indicated, all the land area surrounding this plat is owned by the developer of the subdivision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? If not, I'll go ahead and open it up to the public at this time or the applicant. Mr. Werger, would you like to address the council at this time, or you're good to go? Okay. And then I'll go ahead and open it up for other public comments. If anyone would like to address the council on this particular issue at this time, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing at this time, and I'd ask for a motion to dispose of Bill 3275, first reading.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3275 for the vacation of the Cunningham at Creekmore First Plat.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3275. Any further discussion? Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll explain what the reasoning for my question was, is that many times when changes come to a development and people, not particularly in this case because nobody owns any other than the developer, nobody lives there, nobody has a house there that has a vested interest in that particular neighborhood within a certain amount of feet. Many times over my experience since I've been on the council, people have said, that wasn't supposed to be there. That wasn't going to happen. We didn't know about this. That was the purpose of that question. And the what council has done in the past is required that good neighbor meetings take place, the notifications that the signages are out there and all of that, and that was the reasoning for that. And I don't think I've ever seen this scenario before, to where it's kind of in the reverse, that they're doing away with the plat. But, you know, so I just want that to be known and to be said that way. It's still reiterated that these changes can make a difference to people who own places. And this is just kind of my on my soapbox to preemptively, you know, take care of that right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I do know that Mr. Warger is prone to talk to himself. You probably had a good neighborhood meeting with yourself, didn't you? Okay, that's what I said. Okay, thank you, Steve. Anything else? If not, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3269 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3269 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving the final plat for Cunningham at Creekmore, second plat, lots 69 through 104 and tracts E and F, located in the southwest quarter of Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I'd ask Mr. Cataret to make the staff report on this item.
Thank you, sir. Bill 3269 proposes approval of the Cunningham at Creekmore second final plat, which includes lots 69 through 104. This second phase, second plat of the subdivision would actually be located a little bit to the south of the area that you just vacated the first plat. So if this is approved, this in essence becomes the first phase of the subdivision for Cunningham. The access to this phase would be about a quarter mile south of 155th Street on North Madison Street. And this subdivision phase contains 36 lots. It covers roughly 14 acres of land. This final plat, again, slightly modifies the overall layout for the Cunningham subdivision. And if this is approved, the next phase, the next two phases of the subdivision will take the land area that is vacated as part of the first plat. So vacating that plat was necessary for this plat to come forward to you with the whole redesigned street layout. The one change that has occurred with this final plat versus a preliminary plat, the access drive off 155th Street was moved slightly to the south to avoid a stream crossing and any environmental impacts that could have, as well as the proposed pool for this part of the Creekmore subdivision has been slightly relocated. The pool is not part of the second plat, but I believe it is going to be part of the next phase. It actually is adjacent to this particular phase of development. The Planning Commission has submitted proposed findings of fact on this final plat consideration. It was at the June 6th meeting that the Commission voted 9-0 to accept the findings of fact and forward this case to the City Council with a recommendation of approval. In your packet, I included the engineering memorandum regarding the provision of public facilities to this subdivision phase, the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting, as well as the development agreement, which has been signed by the developer. That concludes staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Thank you, sir. If there is none, is there a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 3269?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3269 for approval of the Cunningham at Creekmore second plat.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3269. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3276 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3276 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending Section 500.090A, issuance of permits, adopted as part of the building regulations of the Raymore City Code.
Thank you. Is there a staff report, sir?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Mr. Carteret to make the report on this item.
Thank you, sir. At your February 20th work session, a council member discussed issues related to the non-payment of utility bills. And one comment, concern that was identified was that the city was issuing building permits to a contractor, a builder, who was delinquent in the payment of a utility bill that was owed to the city. Bill 3276 proposes to prohibit the issuance of a building permit to a person, firm, corporation that is delinquent on payment of fees and charges due to the city. So for example, if a builder comes forward with a application for a building permit, but that builder is delinquent on payment of a utility bill, the city would withhold issuance of that permit until any delinquent payment was made to the city. In addition to that, if a fee or charge is due to the city for service to or work upon a property for which a building permit is requested, no permit would be issued until full payment is made. An example in this case is the builder may be paid up on any utility bills that they have, but there may be a mowing invoice that's due for that particular property. It could be a property that we installed sidewalk upon as part of our undeveloped lot program that we haven't been paid upon, and that's a delinquent payment. That payment would have to be made for that lot in order for a building permit to be issued. So this proposed bill would take care of both of those instances to ensure that if a building permit is issued, that no fee or charge that is due to the city and is delinquent hasn't been paid. So city staff does recommend approval of Bill 3276. And that concludes staff report.
Thank you. Is there questions of staff? Mr. Holman.
So just for clarification, Jim, if a builder came into the building and went over to your side to apply for a building permit and that builder owed money for a water bill or mowing service, they could literally walk over to this window, pay the bill, then come back and further the process of getting that permit. Is it that simple?
That is correct. It's that simple.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would the policy or procedure allow for payment plans, or would the full payment have to be made before the permit would be issued?
In this instance, I believe the way it would be written, it says full payment. So we would have to have full payment for whatever that charge would be in order to issue the building permit.
Okay. Anything else? Follow on?
I'm thinking about that answer, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, sir. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question, just to clarify from my own personal, do we interchange due and delinquent? If the bill is due in the normal billing cycle and it's delinquent?
I know there's not an interest charge if it was a lot mowing or a sidewalk installation. I would have to ask City Manager, Mr. Fearborn, on the utility bill. I don't know if there's delinquents or if there's interest on those.
There would be when they came in to make the payment. There wouldn't be an accruing one, as you have indicated, council member, but when they did come in, if they were late on the payment, there would be a delinquent charge assigned to that. For the most part, the vast majority of these, as the council will remember, are ascribed to some pretty specific builders in town who, when they close out their houses and the house changes over to somebody else, they end up with bills, accumulating water bills in the $5 and $6 range. So the fee in some of those cases is actually going to be more than the delinquent charge itself. But the council did note during that discussion in February that there were some spots on those delinquent water bill lists that the same builder 6 and 7 times was listed with bills ranging from a couple of pennies to $14 and $15 in some cases, but they do start to add up after a while.
Thank you.
Mr. Moorhead.
Mr. Cataret, just again for clarification for everyone, Chapter 500 regarding building code, that is for contractors and developers, and for like construction of a home. That's not if somebody wants to come in and just wants to get like a dog license or a permit. So this is really a commercial issue. This isn't something that an average resident should be even involved with, correct?
That is correct, and this is geared towards permits for new homes. So unless a resident had a lot that they were going to build a home upon, it shouldn't apply to existing residents.
So it wouldn't apply to permits requested by a resident for, say, adding on a deck or even putting in a hot water heater or something to that effect, or would it?
The language indicates no building permit shall be issued to a person. So a permit, if you want to add on a deck, is a building permit. So it still would apply in those instances.
Okay.
I believe the intent here was, again, for the new home construction.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What in the case of a business that wants to expand and needs a permit, whether to remodel, expand, or whatever, if they are delinquent, what would that do in that case there?
They would need to pay the bill. They have a delinquent water bill.
In full, or would they be allowed payment?
In full.
In full. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, is there a motion to dispose of Bill 3276?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3276 for an amendment to Chapter 500, the Building Code.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3276. Any further discussion? Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think this is a matter of public trust. When a developer comes in and says they're going to do something for the city's representing the people, and if they're not taking care of their earlier business, how can we know that they're going to take care of their future business? It's not getting a hamburger today, paying next Tuesday like Wimpy would want. We want to take care of things today. Thanks.
Mr. Kellogg.
Mr. Mayor, very unusual for me to do this, very unusual. But I'm going to inform you and the council that I'm planning on abstaining from this vote until I have more fuller discussions with staff. My vote very well may change the next time we come before the city at this dais, but for tonight, I don't have enough information right now for my own personal, I'm tempted to table this, to ask to table this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask for, I'm not going to ask, I'm going to abstain from this, and I'm going to ask more questions of staff in detail before I cast a yay or nay on this. So thank you.
All right, sir. Anyone else? No further discussion. All those in favor of the motion? 7 yes. Is there any noes? And assume 1 abstention. So 7-0-1, motion passes. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3280 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3280 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Jim's Disposal Service submitted for RFP number 17-002.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. The current contract between the city and Town and Country Disposal, purchased by WCA Waste Collection, expires on December 31st, 2017. Accordingly, staff issued a joint request for proposal in partnership with the City of Belton for these services to begin on January 1, 2018.
For the provision of waste disposal services for the City of Raymore in accordance with the request.
Staff Staff now brings to the council a recommendation that award of contract be made to Jim's Disposal Service, LLC, to provide these services for Raymore. As I indicated, the contract will be the current contract will be expiring on December 31st. 6 companies responded to the RFP. One of the 6 was deemed non-responsive immediately, did not provide a bid bond for this particular RFP, and no notification that they had received either Addendum 1 or Addendum 2. The 3 next apparent low bidders were all called in to clarify elements of their proposals and allow each of those bidders to outline how they intended to provide various aspects of this particular contract. It includes such items as the type of trucks that they would be using, their ability to get the capital necessary to provide this particular service in a timely manner. Included the CART program discussion, because obviously where the rubber hits the road, pardon the pun, is where the carts are placed into the homes, and that is a major process and a major outlay for these companies that are bidding on this. Dispatching, customer service issues, customer service protocols were discussed with each of them, and any restrictions that they might have on service. Following the interviews, all of the companies that were deemed responsive, staff took a great deal of time to call all of their references, and we always go, especially for contracts of this size, we try to go a little bit further on that. If references are giving us other names, et cetera, we do a little bit more of a broader call out, if you will. Following all of that, staff would be making the recommendation of award of this particular contract to Jim's Disposal Service, LLC. The company was the overall low bidder out of the gate at $12.41 per month per resident to be picked up for the basic services of solid waste, recycling, and an expanded yard waste program, which was one of the things that staff has heard over and over again, that it is kind of confusing the way we had it before, with some months there were 2 times a month, some months. In this case, yard waste will be picked up every single week for 10 months out of the year, March 1st through December 31st, only skipping January and February. Elements of the proposal: the carts to be provided. There were 2 overreaching elements. The carts to be provided, each resident will be provided with a 65-gallon solid waste cart and a 65-gallon recycling cart. That is a larger cart than is currently in the homes. We recognize some residents don't even want carts. Some residents want a different size cart. So there was a significant element of when you're going through that particular program and the CART program, that our residents will be heavily informed. We will begin almost immediately on council approval. We will begin an informational campaign to our residents shortly following the start of our informational campaign in conjunction with Jim's Disposal. If the council does approve this contract, there will be a CART informational campaign being done by Rarig Pacific, who is the CART provider for Jim's Disposal. The pickup days will be changing. All of the providers bid multiple days for pickup, anywhere between 2 days, as is in the case here, to Raymore actually being picked up 5 days a week. In this particular case, Jim's Disposal is proposing that Raymore be picked up on Wednesday and Thursday. It would not be recycling one day, solid waste the next day. It would be one part of the city, and obviously informational campaign, one half of the city on Wednesday, one half of the city on Thursday. The basic elements: solid waste, pretty much all of the bidders. There's no change in the solid waste, and with Jim's, it would be no difference. No change from the current unlimited solid waste service that we have. Residents would still be permitted to put out bag trash in addition to the trash that was in their cart, or bag trash only. It's going to get picked up if they put it out on the curb. It is unlimited service. Recycling, no change from the current unlimited service. Although the recycling cart, again, as I'd stated, is larger, residents can order a smaller one if they so choose. They could order a smaller solid waste cart as well. Residents can put out recycling that does not fit into the cart, just like our current contract has. So if the cart is out there, you fill up the cart, you can still stack your recycling next to the cart. We're kind of hoping that perhaps going to Wednesday and Thursday, while we all know that Wednesday is the windiest day in the United States here in Raymore, maybe Thursday for those folks being picked up there, some of their recycling can remain for a little while. Yard waste, no change in the unlimited yard waste that can be placed at the curb. Same yard waste rules apply as far as grass clipping, leaves, vines, hedges, shrub trimmings, and tree limbs. That's the definition of the yard waste. The yard waste should either be placed in biodegradable sack or limbs and bundles not to exceed 3 feet in length and 18 inches in diameter. Same as what we have right now with our current contractor. Yard waste pickup schedule has been expanded, as I'd stated, to 10 months of the year. Yard waste would be picked up on the same day that a resident's solid waste and recycling is being picked up, just like now. Special item, bulky item pickup did change. Currently, the residents putting out white goods pay $12 for a white good or refrigerator or washer, dryer, etc. They are allowed 1 item per week for free besides a white good. And bulky item pickup is arranged directly between the resident and the contractor. That will be changing under Jim's. Jim's is proposing that any bulky item that is put out, there is a $25 fee for it, but he is also, he has agreed to, within the contract, have 2 free bulky item pickup days a year with up to 5 items that can be put out at the curb at the exact same time. And we would be arranging one of those in the spring and one of those in the fall for our residents. Again, the informational campaign will be critically important. City of Raymore, the contract does call for, the contract is for 3 years, assuming agreement by both parties. Increases in the contract price would be done according to the refuse rate index that we've had in place with our prior contractor. The contract calls for, at the end of the 3-year period, if both parties agree, 2 one-year extensions to the contract, so it could go out for a full 5 years if the council agrees to that. The City of Raymore charges residents monthly. Just want to make this point for our residents' information. We charge the residents monthly for exactly what we are charged per resident by the trash contractors. That has always been the case. There is no administrative fee added to this. Staff still does not propose or recommend to the council that any administrative fee be added to this for what we are doing here in-house. We have picked that up, and it's been a very smooth operation internally for us to be doing that. A lot of good information exchange. So staff would recommend award to Jim's Disposal Service LLC for the cost of $12.41 per resident per month, with no other changes to the existing contract. And if the council will indulge us, the owner of Jim's LLC, Mr. Chuck Bird, and he can tell you about that story, is here in the audience tonight, so I'd ask if Mr. Bird could come up and address the council at this time.
Good evening, Mayor and all the City Council people. It is a pleasure to be with you this evening. I am Chuck Bird. I'm the owner and president of Jim's Disposal Service. We are a locally owned company here in Kansas City, been in business here for 20 years, and we're excited about the opportunity to provide service here in Raymore. We've worked very diligently with your staff, understanding the needs and the wants of the residents here, in Raymore, and we feel that we are more than capable to deliver the service. We currently provide service in Kansas City to roughly about 53,000 residents on a weekly basis. Our record of service is, I feel, is pretty good. Our slogan, our guys said, you know, our thing is, we're not just talking trash, we're the best. And so they feel very confident in the ability to provide the service to residents on a daily basis. One of the things that we know is very critical when you're rolling out a program such as this, bringing in a new hauler, and we've had this experience before, is the rolling out of the carts and how important that is. And so we've partnered with Rig Pacific, and that program is not something that they sub out. It's done in-house. They know what they're doing. They do it on a daily basis. And so we know that's very critical to implementing a rollout of a cart program such as this, and try to make it as seamless as possible to the residents. Any interruptions in service, change is not good in a lot of cases, especially when it comes to trash. And so we've partnered with them to come in and partner with us to make sure that that part of the process is done, and done very efficiently. And so we've invited them here tonight if you have any questions in regards to that. In regards to the service, you know, we feel that we are very competent and able to deliver the carts, the service that you guys have become accustomed to, and we're very confident in being able to deliver that. If you have any questions for me, I'll clear up the myth. I'm Chuck Bird, but it's Jim's Disposal. I bought the company from a gentleman some 20 years ago, and I never changed the name. We just took it and made it better. And so he had a great track record, and so here we are some 20 years later. We are a locally owned company here in Kansas City. We're based out of Kansas City, and that's where our office is. We are excited to let you know also within the next 60 days we will be operating our own transfer station, which is the first one in eastern Jackson County, north of the rivers, 291 and 210 highway. And so we're excited about that facility opening up, and it's going to make us more efficient. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. Do you know what on the rollout of the changeover, if you're awarded the contract, how long that can pick up, for lack of a better term, or drop off would take for a city our size?
Well, I can bring Rig Pacific up to answer that question.
Sure, I figured you might.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Mike Felling with Rig Pacific. It would take roughly 3 to 4 weeks. We would have about 3 crews doing 500 carts a day, 500 homes a day. So about 3 to 4 weeks,
Okay.
3 crews.
Well, I know that
6 days a week, too.
Okay, thank you. I know the council has other questions as well. Mr. Moorhead, I saw your hand up.
Yes, Mr. Bird, I noticed you're located off North Chestnut Traffic Way. That's where your offices are. Is that where your trucks are going to be at?
Yes.
Okay, and I also noticed from your references, all those were primarily north zones. What customers have you had in South Kansas City, specifically south of the Triangle?
Well, in Kansas City, we used to provide service for Kansas City residents south of the river, and then we moved to the north of the river. But on commercial customers, we do have customers all as far as Grandview right now. So expanding our footprint, you know, we thought that through very seriously before we entered into this, you know, this contract process. So broadening our footprint from the north, from where we're operating now to the south, we thought that through that process through very, very carefully.
Okay. Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I was reading through this, one thing kind of caught my attention, and I'll ask you to explain it. In our page, in our agenda, page 200, it lists how long you've owned the company and how many employees you have. It's listed 8. Can I have you explain that to us, please? Because if you can do this with 8 people, by golly, we want you more.
That's our administrative staff inside the office.
So that's office. How many drivers do you have?
Right now we have roughly, I think it's about 26, 27.
And you're confident that you can take care of Raymore, Belton, and
Without a
your
doubt.
current clients that you have?
Without a doubt. Very confident in that.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sirs, thank you very much. Is that all you have for our staff report, Jim?
We would just add one thing, sir, relative to, actually two things. The first would be relative to the card program. As you can tell, everybody worries a little bit about that. Obviously, these carts would be being delivered, pushed up as close to a time frame before Jim's Disposal took over, and then immediately after the beginning of the year, per the staff report, we would be working very diligently with WCA on the carts that exist at the homes. So there is going to be a period of time where the residents would have both sets of carts sitting in front of their homes. We'll work very, very hard with WCA. We have no doubt that the customer service they've provided us in the past, they will continue with this and help us out to get those cards picked up from those residents as quickly as possible. That was the first item. The second item is, obviously this was a joint bid with Belton, and interestingly enough, the next item on the agenda is a joint bid with several of the Cass County cities, so we're seeing more and more of that. Again this evening, would like to welcome Belton City Manager, Miss Alexa Barton, is in the back corner of the council chambers. It has been a real experience in professionalism to be dealing with the city staff over in Belton. It's been a great information exchange. It's been, they've just been a real delight to deal with throughout this process. Been very, very open to really good discussion and informational discussion with us. So staff wants to take this opportunity to thank them for their partnership, and thank them for their goodwill in proceeding with this RFP. That concludes staff report tonight, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Mr. Moorhead.
Mr. Fairborn, I noticed in the packet that normally we see a specific breakdown of the bids by each of the 6 vendors. I think you said we had 5 that kind of qualified. What was the disparity range between the bids?
Again, Jim's was low at $12.41. The high bid was $21.75. That was from Republic Services. Our existing, and that was for basic services. Our existing provider was at $14.89.
Okay, follow-up question that's somewhat unrelated. Why is Mr. Shaw's letter to Town and Country Disposal included in the packet regarding Town and Country?
Because Mr. Bird was actually acting as a subcontractor for Town and Country, and so if you look on the sheet that is provided, you will note that the liquidated damages had to be paid by Jim's Disposal LLC. They were acting as a subcontract at that time for Town and Country.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir. There's nothing else. Is there a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 3280?
Yes, there is, Mr. Mayor. I go ahead and move that we approve Bill 3280 for an award of contract for residential waste collection.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3280 and the recommendations of staff. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Kellogg.
I'm going to yield to Mr. Burke. I've already asked this question, but
Okay.
I'm going to yield to Mr.
Go ahead, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I may be mistaken in attributing this quote, but I believe it was Rudy Giuliani said that the easiest way for a mayor or city council to lose their jobs is trash and snow removal. And I receive calls almost every week about trash. I did last week. Some of the people that were here earlier that gave me this pin call me often about the trash. It's very important to people.
Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo what Mr. Burke just said. This is one of those things, and not to embarrass them, but I have two constituents in the office, in the audience tonight, that haven't been up here for quite some time, and they are very attentive as to what goes on in the city. They view the meetings as soon as they're out on YouTube. They've taken their time here tonight, and they are citizens that have called me with their concerns of problems that we've had in the past, and luckily we've been able to work through them. But you're absolutely correct. This is one of those things that there's really very little room for error. So that's how important this is to this city and these citizens here, in my opinion, from what I'm getting from them. The question that I would have for staff is, what is the mechanism for the citizens when they have a concern, complaint, or a suggestion? Do they still come to, under this new contract, do they still come to the city staff, or do they contact the contractor?
They have either option. We prefer that they contact city staff, and city staff directs them accordingly, because the questions are wide and varied.
Thank you.
Mr. Moorhead.
Yeah, I'm, in looking at this, obviously I moved the bill, so obviously I'm required procedurally to vote in support, but I do wish to express some concern, and I believe that since we do have a second read on this, I hope we will continue to look deeply in this. One, anytime you change, I mean, it's one of those you don't have, maybe you don't like what you currently have, but the new may be even worse. So, and that's not a criticism of the direct vendor, but we don't know what we're getting into. There are a number of variables here. One, hearing that our existing vendor's bid was $2.48 per home. I'm not a mathematician, but that screams over $200,000 a year total. I don't know the exact number. That's a pretty extensive difference. But at the same time, we're dealing with a new vendor that's not used to working in this area, primarily works up north, and even with the number of people, and believe me, I have no doubt that they're hard workers, and I just, man, that's not a lot of people out there, and if a truck goes down, that's a long distance. I'm voting in support of this tonight to keep this moving forward, but as Mr. Kellogg has done on a previous vote, I'm going to be a little more scrutinizing over the next 2 weeks of and to communicate with staff on this, because this, as Mr. Burke points out, you know, it's amazing how trash is valued at $12 a month, but yet that's the thing that everybody calls us about. We can spend over $1 million on a building and nobody calls us, but boy, 12 bucks gets everybody riled. But it is, because it's very important. It's something that touches and concerns us every day. So this is, to me, I just hope we, regardless of a vote today, I hope we spend a little time and make sure we're making a good, solid decision for the future.
Anyone else? Mr. Holman.
I have a question for Mr. Zur. I apologize, I'm lazy. I didn't delve into the contract that closely, but can you give me kind of a synopsis? I'm assuming there's a severability clause if things were to go south on us, and what our protections would be in that arena.
Yeah, there are termination provisions within the terms of the contract, for cause or without cause, that allow for us to do so. There's also protections in there from the city's perspective with regard to performance and payment bonds in the event that nothing occur, or that there's a problem with regard to the provision of services.
Thank you, sir.
And since we only have 2 items on our work session agenda on July the 3rd, maybe we can talk a little bit about that and just kind of get a synopsis of going over again what you have told us this evening. There's a lot of information to digest there, and maybe we can talk a little bit about it, spend a few minutes on it. Okay? All right. Anything else? Hearing nothing else, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3277 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3277 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city manager to enter into an agreement with Superior Bowen Asphalt Company, LLC, for the 2017 street preservation project in the amount of $724,135.50, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Over the past several years, the City of Raymore has participated in a joint bidding process for street maintenance projects with several Cass County cities. The responsibility of coordinating the bidding process has proposed to be rotated between the cities. In 2015, the City of Belton managed the bidding of the project. This year, the City of Peculiar assumed the responsibility for soliciting bids and awarding the contract on behalf of the group of cities. We did review the bids with the City of Peculiar prior to their award, and we do concur with their recommendation of their award of this contract to Superior Bowen, and recommend the council award a contract with Superior Bowen for our project in the amount of $724,135.50.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Mr. Moorhead.
Mr. Krass, we entered into this, and I think 2015 might have been the beginning. I can't remember the exact time. Do you have an idea of roughly how many times we've utilized this joint bidding process? And not just asking for a yes or no, do you see any significant benefits from this process or just nominal benefits?
We used it in starting in 2015, and it was a 2-year contract, and so then we did use it for the 2016 project. This is a new bid process. I think with any economies of scale like this, there is some savings. What we do is check for reasonableness of the pricing. We took a look at what last year's bids were and applied the asphalt index according to APWA. That's a way to adjust cost pricing based on the cost of the asphalt or the oil content within the material. Took a look at that, and there is some cost savings involved with that compared to what's would have been projected to be bid out with the cost index.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Holman.
Mr. Krass, was Superior Bowen the company that did the overlay of 58 for the Geo Bond project?
No, that was J.M. Fahey.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But Superior Bowen has done considerable work for us over the years.
I thought we had used them before. I remember their name coming up in other contracts. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Krass. There's no further discussion on our questions of staff. Is there a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 3277?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3277 for an award of contract for the 2017 street preservation project.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3277. Any further discussion now? Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make just one quick point on here. I know we're doing this to save money, but when we join with Pleasant Hill and in Peculiar, we need to take into account that the product that's being hauled in here, the asphalt, has to be driven further. It also, especially Pleasant Hill, I know I'm not sure about Peculiar, but Pleasant Hill is outside the commercial zone. So the trucks coming in here can't haul as much product, and therefore it costs more. So I just want to make that statement out there that I do hope that we are saving money in this process, but we are also joining in with others now that are paying higher prices to haul their goods in here. So just want to put that out there. That was my 2 cents worth there.
Mr. Krass, follow up?
Yeah, I'd just like to, we do recognize that is a challenge. So within the contract, each individual city is listed by quantity of asphalt and location as a way to hopefully offset some of that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? There's no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. May I have a point of order?
Sure.
May I be excused from the dais for just a few moments?
Need to take a recess?
No, just, I want to be excused from the dais just for a
All
few
right.
moments.
All right,
Thank you.
sir. The next item, could we please have the first reading of Bill 3278 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3278 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city manager to execute a contract amendment with SFS Architecture for the Recreation Activity Center project in the amount of $22,437 and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. With the award, or with the action of this evening, awarding the second reading of the construction contract for the Raymore Activity Center, construction will be moving forward. At this point, we do need to engage the services of SFS Architecture to assist with some of the construction administration phases. FSS is the architect of record for the project, and so we do recommend approval of this contract administration amendment.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, Mike. I get tongue-tied too.
Yeah, he did. Any questions of staff? Ms. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does this change the timeline of the start of the project?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? There's nothing else. Is there a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 3278?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3278 for a contract amendment for SFS Architecture.
Second.
Very good. Motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, please have the first reading of Bill 3279 by title only.
The first reading of Bill 3279 by title only. Approval of a memorandum of understanding between the city and Parks and Recreation Board guiding the placement and maintenance of art in city parks.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd ask Mr. Icky to make the staff report on this item.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We are excited to bring the memorandum of understanding between the City Council, Arts Commission, and the Parks and Recreation Board. The memorandum outlines the duties and responsibilities between the Parks and Recreation Board, the Parks Department, and the Communications Department, and the Arts Commission and City Council when it comes to placement of art in the city parks. Specifically, it outlines and highlights the process by which the Arts Commission would be creating those calls for artists, vetting those artists, selecting the pieces, and that the Parks Department would be responsible for the maintenance and the general care of those pieces once placed in one of the city parks. Already, the Arts Commission and the Parks Board have both approved, and the list is in your packet, a number of locations throughout the existing city parks. The MOU also outlines that as new parks come online, or as the Parks Board begins creating new parks in the future, that the Arts Commission would be involved in the selection of new locations as well. So as new parks come on board, we have a seat, or the Arts Commission has a seat at the table. Would be happy to take any questions about the MOU itself. I know the Arts Commission is excited to move forward.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions, Michael? Mr. Holman.
I notice that this memorandum of understanding is specifically designed for fixed pieces of art, paintings, sculptures, photography, those kind of things. And the Arts Commission has done a fantastic job since its beginning. Really couldn't ask for a whole lot more. However, I would be remiss in reminding, and I'm going to hit on this point every time I have an opportunity. When we created the Arts Commission and in the multiple meetings since, we gently reminded the Arts Commission we would also like to see an emphasis in the performing arts. And with the new venues coming online and the two new members that are now on the Arts Commission and the background that they would have, I would hopefully respectfully encourage them to consider that as a little bit bigger piece of the venue going forward. I know it's something that's been called for among our citizens, and certainly the new venues are going to provide ample opportunity for that. That's really more of a comment than a question. Sorry, sir.
Thank you, Jay. Anyone else? Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. If there's nothing else for questions of staff, is there a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 3279?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3279 for a memorandum of understanding guiding the placement of art in city parks.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3279. Any further discussion? Ms. Abdel, go ahead. You want to?
I just have just a quick comment. I know in the past we've kind of had some issues with MOUs that are indefinite, so I was happy to see written into this one that we're going to look back at it every 2 years, so it's not just out there indefinitely.
Thank you. Mr. Holman.
Thank you. And trying to channel Mr. Burke and his chosen profession and giving you a little bit of guidance towards that A+ range, I must say excellent job to the Arts Commission and what they've done to this point. The tree sculpture back behind Centerview is gorgeous, especially at nighttime. When I take people up there, I prefer to go at dusk. I go, you got to see it with the kind of purplish lights on it. It just looks gorgeous. So we're really doing some fantastic stuff. I see that they're really digging into this, and this is good stuff. So I'm in support of this, obviously.
Sure. Thank you. Anyone else? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to the public comment section. If anyone would like to address the council at this time, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and keep your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes, please. Come on up, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Ron Cutright, 608 Meadowlark Drive. Sitting in the background, there was a lot of information about the trash pickup, and I could not catch a lot of it. And at my age, I do a lot of lip reading, and you can't do it from behind. Couple of questions. On this contract, on holidays, we were privileged to have a very good trash pickup company before WCA was purchased into that. On holidays, it was picked up exactly on the holiday, not before, the day before, or the day after. So I'd like to have some good contact about what they're going to do about holidays through the year. Second thing is, on 2 days of pickup, Wednesday or Thursday, I don't want to put my trash out on Wednesday and have it picked up on Thursday, because I take it back in at night, put it back out the next day, and that's not good. So if they can route their route to pick up certain addresses on Wednesday and certain addresses on Thursday, and we know about it, then we can put it out on that particular day and it will be picked up. So I don't know how you're going to do with 2 days in a week. The last thing I'd like to comment on was, I'm saddened to see that you didn't include on Bill 3279 the roundabouts. We had some good information before, and it was never acted on. Thank you.
And thank you, sir. I appreciate your comments. Anyone else like to address the council at this time? There are none. We'll move on to the mayor-council communication. I'll start from the inside out this time. Mr. Holman.
Not much this evening, sir. Just welcome to Melissa. Welcome to the team. You've joined the equivalent of the New York Yankees at their height. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moorhead.
First of all, I'll start off, sir, I believe my review of the contract that's being proposed under paragraph 10, holiday schedule, contractor has agreed on no holidays to be included in the contract. And I'll have staff back me up on that, but my interpretation is they will, if accepted, they will not be picking up on holidays. based on your question.
No, excuse me, sir, if I could just clarify that. There are no recognized holidays. They will pick up exactly like Town and Country did. If Christmas Day falls on a Wednesday or a Thursday, they're picking up on Christmas Day the same way that Town and Country did.
So since Thanksgiving is always on Thursday, those folks can always
That's
expect
correct.
coverage. Well,
there you go.
We had a great deal of support for that from our citizenry. And if I could answer his other question, and if maybe you could relay it back, the same home would be picked up on Wednesday. One half of the city will always be picked up the same homes on Wednesday, one half the city, same homes on Thursday. So you'll always be picked up on the same day.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I also want to thank the Raymore Historical Society for coming out. The Raymore at Night shirts worried me. The Kopetskis always, I'm afraid what they're going to be protesting up and down my street, but that's a great group, and they really represent Raymore well, and I would encourage people to go over. I've had a chance, I've not had a full tour, but I had a chance to stick my head in and look around a little bit. Ms. Hubach took me around, and what a great living history walking with you, telling your stories. So I'd encourage all of you to do that. And welcome, Melissa. You've already bailed me out once already with some words, so I appreciate your contributions right out of the gate, and I know there'll be many more. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the citizens of Raymore for Centerview. That was a tremendous ribbon cutting that we had. We had a big crowd there. We had all the council present except my cohort in Ward 3 was not able to come, but I invited his sons to be there, which was kind of neat. You see there, that's our future, and her achievements, and she is the living, and so it was nice having them there. They were very excited. It was nice to see Ms. Hubach. She had a big part in naming, and she knew most of those people back then, I think, too. But that was nice. But again, I know staff worked hard to put that together, and it showed. They did a great job. It went longer. I mean, it went I think till 6, 7 o'clock. And Jim had said people were still flowing in and coming, so it did very well. I want to welcome Melissa. Everybody says that before me, but I want to welcome you too. And we do have a scout in the audience that I happen to know. So Conrad, thanks for sharing our meeting with us, and hopefully it wasn't too boring, but that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to recognize the scouts from Troop 32, where I think I saw you guys on Scout Sunday and possibly on call night. So hopefully we'll get to know each other in the future. Hopefully, I just bought a new cot, so I can't sleep on the ground anymore. I can't deal with it. But I did buy a new one and told my sons that I will be trying to get out there again. And also to my neighbors, it'll be nice. It'll be easier for me to figure out when I can put my leaves out, when I actually was out using the chipper shredder today for several hours with rose bushes that I cut down a couple days ago, and it'll be a lot easier to just bale them and put them out and put the leaves out and not try to remember. I've been working in the school district since '98, and I can't remember which Tuesday we have our staff meetings. Everybody says it's the same day every month. I'm like, I don't remember that. So it'll be real nice and easy for all the people that can't remember which days they can, or which weeks they can put out their stuff. So I think that'll be an improved service. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo that welcome to Melissa. Welcome to the city of Raymore. We're excited to have you here working with us. I'm excited to hear about the success of Centerview that Mr. Mustine shared with us at the beginning of the meeting. Mr. Barber thanked the citizens for that, which definitely they deserve the thanks for coming that night and also for supporting that project. And I also noticed when I was there, many business owners there in support of that grand opening for Centerview. So thanks to the business owners who support that as well. Thanks to Renee Kirchhoff and her Historical Society crew for coming out and giving us our I Love Raymore pins, and hopefully they'll have great success selling those and raising money for their new home. And a couple of requests. I haven't seen a whole lot of information out about the app for the 4th of July event. Maybe I've just missed it, but I've talked to several people about the music element of that and how to get it. So I just want to be sure that in this next week we really flood people with information about how to get that app, how to hear the music to go with the event. People who come that night, surely there will be some signage or something, but I know a lot of people stay home close to the park especially to watch that, so I'd like to be sure they are able to get the music to go with the fireworks this year. And secondly, Mr. Crass, I know that many times you've given me information on Ward Road. That street preservation award information in the packet brought out some questions in Ward Road, in Ward 4 about Ward Road. If you wouldn't mind sending me a little bit more information that I know you already have about the cost of repairing that road, why we can't just simply surface fix it. I know you have looked up that information and shared it before, but if you could refresh my memory so I can share that out with people out there who are concerned, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, I would like to echo again, welcome to Melissa and to the Communications Department. Join an excellent team. Also, to the citizens of Raymore, again, it's been said several times, the Spirit of America, the celebration this Saturday should be an outstanding time, and also with the opportunity with the new music app should actually make it an outstanding opportunity for everyone to enjoy themselves. The first time the city has endeavored to have the celebration on a Saturday, so have an opportunity to enjoy the celebration with the city that was advertised on the news, as well as enjoying your holiday weekend and other venues that you may have with your families. Also, I'd like to encourage the citizens of Ward 1. Councilmember Kellogg and I will be hosting a town hall meeting in our new Centerview here on July 19th. More information will be coming out on that, but we'd love to have the constituents come out, and we'd love to hear from you and present some more information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, going second from last, a lot of my points got crossed off the list here because they've been hit several times. Had a great time at the Centerview opening and was very impressed with the building and the job that city staff did, and look forward to that really taking off, and it sounds like it's doing well already. Welcome, Melissa. The trash contract, I want to just briefly state that it is, I can't understate how important that is going to be for the residents of our city. Mr. Byrd, I appreciate you coming out tonight. I admire your enthusiasm. If you get the contract, sir, we'll be watching you very closely, and we'll be excited to have you here if that does happen, and hope that goes very well. And glad to see Qdoba coming on board soon. That gentleman, I think, was very confident. He didn't even stay for the vote and got a unanimous vote. So that's the most confident liquor license request I've seen so far. So, and that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to, again, thank the citizens for Centerview. Beautiful facility. Great grand opening we had, just fabulous. A lot of people have thanked many people for their contribution to that. Also, one that I didn't hear was South Metro. South Metro was in attendance, and they did give a award recognition to Mrs. Hubach and her late husband, Don Hubach, for all of their contributions they've done to the city, that they've contributed to the city. And I thought that was very nice of them, very appropriate. And it was very nice to have Mike Nefco there representing the South Metro. And there was others there. There was chiefs there and all of that. So thank them for being there. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Alexa Barton, city manager of Belton. She is here tonight. She's been here through our work sessions also. She has worked extensively hand in hand with our staff in representing the city of Belton and working cooperatively with our city for this trash contract that we're undertaking. And it's very nice to see the cooperation and in the spirit of of betterment for all of our communities. And I thank you. And also, please take back to the council in the great city of Belton. Thank you for all of their hard work and support in this too. I don't know where you folks are at as far as the contract, but I wish you well. I hope you folks are just as pleased and excited about it as we are. You know, there was a lot of apprehension going into it 8 years ago. This is one of the very first things that I remember voting on when I came on the council was the trash contract. And it's one of those things that I had a lot of apprehensions about, but now that we've been through it and lived through it for 8 years, all my colleagues up here will tell you, if we were to ever do away with that contract, clear the house. You know, we wouldn't be here. You know, that's how important it is. And I wish your city well with it. I know you've had problems with contractors and things going on over there, and I just wish you well and the citizens over there. So it's what's good for us is good for you, and what's good for you is good for us. So thank you for all of your cooperation. Also, I'd like to thank Renee Kirchhoff for being here in support of the Historical Society. I did get a button that I wanted at the center view, and I was too scared to ask. I didn't know who to ask, but you know, if you just keep your mouth shut long enough, you know, somebody will come up to you and give you what you want, and by golly, she did. Extremely proud of Raymore, and I will proudly wear this wherever I go, you know. I have to say that I've sold this city so well that I've got a family member that's bought a house in Raymore, and I am very excited to move her in, and it's going to be happening here very soon. So that's kind of a testament that, you know, she could have lived anywhere she wanted to. She could have went back to Johnson County, Kansas, where her kids wanted to go. But she says, you know what? Uncle Kev loves Raymore. She said, I'm going to give it a try. So she's coming. Also, I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Cutright always. Thank you for being here tonight. I know that the trash issue is very important to you folks, and I thank you, Mr. Cutright, for having the courage to get up and ask questions. You did. And I will say that any questions you have, you know you're always free to call me, email me, whatever you need to do. And I also want you to know that you're free to call. And I know Mr. Feuerborn will take your phone calls if you ever do. If there's any questions you ever have, please feel free. You've got many doors open. So thank you for all of your concern of our ward, and thank you for being here. I think that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Oh, I will. I'll reiterate what Mr. Townsend said. Yes, we are planning on having a Ward 1 Town Hall meeting July 19th. More details to come. We have not nailed down a time of start and stop in that, but we've got the center view reserved, and it will be in the evening. And as soon as we have more information, we will get that out. So thanks a lot, and that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, sir. While several of my items are also covered, the ribbon cutting and open house at Centerview was fantastic. Staff did a great job showing off that facility. Thanks to the citizens for that. If you haven't had a chance to come see it and take the tour, Nathan's got it down to a science now because he's been given a lot of tours, and I think about everyone I'm pretty well impressed with it, aren't they, Nate? Yeah, it is awesome. And then again, thank you to the Historical Society and Renee for her presentation tonight. They do need a new facility. Something that they can also include the mail vehicle with them as well. So hopefully they can find something that will suit their needs. But they've got a long way to go, and we need to help them out because that is preserving our history is extremely important. The MML Westgate Awards are coming up in July. We do have Mr. Kellogg proposed an individual for that, and Missouri Municipal League has accepted that award nomination. And so that'll be given out on July 20th. Is it the 20th? I can't remember. What's the Westgate thing? Sorry, Jeannie.
I think Ms. Warner might have a good idea on that.
I think it's the 20th or the 21st, right around there. There'll be more to come on that. But okay, well, I'll keep talking while you're looking it up then. And then, I also want to commend the Charter Review Commission. You know that those folks met twice, sometimes 3 times a month. Over the last 10 months, and read every word, comma, hyphen, slash, number. And two of our council members sat on that, as well as Mrs. Hubach, Mr. Moorhead, and Mr. Burke. Were very diligent in their duties on that. And we just started conversation between our city council and the members of the commission to go over what their recommendations are. As Mr. Moorhead mentioned, there were 15 questions to be proposed if it stays as it is. We're hoping that maybe we can come to some consensus with the group that everything is good to go, and it may be just pushed out there on its own and let it be presented to the community. But we're still in discussions on that. We've got 3 more work sessions to talk about that and get that down to its final piece of legislation to go before the folks in our community. A lot of work to be done there on that, still just reviewing, because it is an extremely important document. The APWA is here. As you know, the Public Works Department is being accredited, and a lot of the work has been going on over the last day. They'll be up at Centerview tomorrow, finishing up with their interviews, and I've already heard many accolades for our Public Works Department and the way they perform their business on a daily basis. I apologize, I won't be able to be there. The Progressive Dinner's tomorrow night with the chamber, and my wife and I are participating there. But I'll be thinking about you, Mike, and thank you for all the hard work, because the accolades that are coming are extremely impressive. And then finally, Kevin, and what was the date on that?
I believe it's the 20th, isn't it?
Is it July 20th?
Sorry, July 20th. The RSVP deadline is July the 12th. That will be held in Blue Springs, Missouri.
Okay, and so at the center out there at Adams Dairy Parkway. Anyway, if those, I know Kevin's going with me. I've already put in my RSVP. Love to see as many of you there as you possibly can be. I don't know if anybody else has put in their RSVP yet on that, but please try to attend that to recognize one of our citizens. Another thing that I attended last week, and I'll wind down here, is Creekmore Clubhouse ribbon cutting. If you haven't been up there, that is very impressive as well. They will be actually a competitor of ours for venues for wedding ceremonies or receptions and other meeting spots. That's a beautiful venue as well. And so we're going to have a lot more available here within our community. And I appreciate what the Creekmore residents have done out there. I know that there was a special assessment there. It didn't come out of our tax dollars, but it came out of the residents' assessment there, and they took a big step forward for that. But it is a beautiful facility. And then finally, Kevin, if you want, the judging starts at 4 for the car show. I'll be there this year. You don't have to do it in my place, but if you want to come out and help, you're certainly welcome to come out and help me on that, if you don't mind. And with that, I think I'll go ahead and, there you go. Yeah, say, no, not that one. But anyway, so that's, I think that's all in my report. Do we have a reason to go into executive session?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we enter into executive session to discuss legal matters as authorized by RSMO 610.021 subsection 1.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Can I have a roll call?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Berenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Yes.
Councilmember Moorhead?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
We will go into executive session now, and once we adjourn from that, we'll come back out, reconvene this meeting, and adjourn for the evening. Thank you.